is Paul Young, of course, wherever I lay my hat. That's my home. Well, I wonder, because my next guest is an author. He's just written a book called Where is Home? He is Paul Lambis. He's down in Paphos. Very good evening to you, Paul.
Good evening, Rosie, and thank you for inviting me on your show.
My pleasure. Now then, I'm reading the synopsis of your book here.
Right.
It says, Paul Charalambous is nearing his 40s, bored, unhappy, and on his way to financial disaster. Reinventing himself as the prodigious Mr. X, he begins to search for a new home. But then it does say it's an entertaining autobiography of an overweight boy growing up in Greek in South Africa. It looks to me like you bring an awful lot of bits and pieces to this book and your life. I mean, is it totally autobiographical?
Absolutely, 100% autobiographical. It's basically, as you said it's a story of an overweight boy growing up Greek in South Africa, facing the challenges of life.
Which was worse, the Greek bit or the overweight bit?
Well, I won't say the Greek bit, I'll definitely say the overweight bit, because that's still a challenge at the moment.
Well, I mean, we laugh about it, but it isn't funny, is it, actually? I mean, being a foreigner in a country, or indeed being overweight, or anything else that people tend to pick up on,
right.
How did you deal with that as a young boy?
I'd say growing up, first of all, in South Africa, which is a multicultural society, I didn't really pay much attention to it, so I wasn't so obsessed with the overweight idea, let's put it that way. And I think when you're not obsessed with something, you don't really worry about it so much, and it's not really a problem, and I think you don't pick up weight as much as you do when you become obsessive about losing weight. And I think since I came to Cyprus, and then it became an issue in later life, you're constantly worrying about it, and then you tend to eat more, if that makes sense.
Well, sort of it does. But let's get back to the book, because you're launching it, aren't you? Well, we'll come to the launch in a minute.
Yes.
But you've been to several different places, UK features, Cyprus where you are now. Just if you can, tell us a little bit about the order that these events took place in.
Okay, well, basically I was born in South Africa, and as a Greek Cypriot living with South African Cypriot living in South Africa, I've spent 27 years of my life there, and we often came to Cyprus on holiday, and then basically it was always on the cards that we would eventually return to our homeland, but I don't think we would have done it if had it not been for the crime in South Africa. And that's another issue which I focus on in the book. That was one of the key reasons for bringing us to Cyprus. We opted for Cyprus because of the English language. English is our first language in South Africa, and we thought we'd feel more at home here. And that was obviously the next step. And then having come to Cyprus, obviously we're on Europe's doorstep, so we decided to look to London, look to various other European cities for our vacations. And I must be honest, London appealed to me the most, which is one of the central areas in my book. Where is home? I'm searching for the ideal home. Could it be in South Africa, the home that I originally had? Is it the one that I'm currently living in now in Cyprus, or is it the one I'm dreaming of in London?
All right, but if you're dreaming of it, why did you come to Cyprus? Why don't you just go and live in London? Or indeed, could it be that you haven't yet been to where home is?
Well, in the book, if I can say, there was I experienced a very near fatal, I'd say, accident in 2008, which basically put everything, it brought everything to a halt, and it said, okay, Paul, focus on your life. Where are you going? This is where you've been. This is where you want to go. But ideally, is home within? Is home a building in London? Is it somewhere in South Africa? Do you want to go back? Do you want to stay? Having travelled to London and having been exposed to a plethora of buildings, of museums, of theatre, and basically I think London brings out the best in me.
But the difference is, you see, if I may interrupt for a moment, Paul, you've visited London. It's like people who come to Cyprus for a holiday and say, oh, I'd love to live there.
Okay.
But when they actually buy the house and start living the daily life here,
Correct.
it isn't the same at all. And if you live in London, okay, you've got the theatres down the road, but if you're working, I bet you don't get the chance to go very often or can't afford to.
Absolutely, which is one of the reasons in South Africa when we were living there, we used to say, oh, we're going to go to Cyprus, we're going to visit the beach, we're going to go to the Greek taverns on a regular basis, and then having come to Cyprus, we don't do that as often as we would like to do it. So could we get the best of both worlds? I think that's the message that's coming across in the book. Can we have, let's say, a holiday home in London and a work home, if we can put it that way, in Cyprus, or vice versa? And that is actually the intention of the book. It starts off that way, where we're trying to figure out, can we have the best of both worlds? Are we living in a whoopee land, which is another term I brought up in the book, a fantasy world? Can we have it? Can't we have it? And it plays on the idea. And then, to find out where you're going, you have to go back to where you started from, and to see why am I thinking that way. Perhaps I wasn't happy in South Africa, or maybe I was. Was it my weight that was bringing me down? Was it being Greek in a non-Greek society? So all these ideas come together, and they play on my mind, and then they say, okay, well, once I've sorted everything out, excuse me, and I've got the closure there, now where am I going? And it all basically came together when I had that accident in 2008, which was near fatal, and it left me almost paralyzed for 6 months. I was unable to move, and then when you've got all that time on your hands, you start thinking, and then you're trying to find hope. I think ideally what it is trying to find peace within yourself.
All right, well, which brings us to, I purposely played that song before I phoned you up. Sorry?
Yes, where you lay your hat.
Wherever you lay your hat, that's your home. I would suggest to you, it's perhaps not where you lay your hat, it's whether or not you have your family around you. Now, you, I think, are married, you've got a family. So presumably, as long as they were with you, would it matter where you were?
I don't want to say too much, because the book eventually reveals...
I thought you were going to say because your wife's listening.
No, on the contrary. Definitely, I think that's very important, and we do touch on the family idea. The fact is, when we came to Cyprus, we didn't have a family with us, and then Cyprus didn't appeal to me as it did when I came on holiday. The minute the family came, it became home.
Okay.
But now, as humans, as if I can say, we always want more. When you're in Cyprus and now you've got London on your doorstep, and then you go and then you see what London presents to you, then maybe you want that. And I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. You could go and live in London, then maybe it would be an anticlimax, and then you'd want to come back to Cyprus. So as a human, wanting to have the best of everything, why can't I have the best of both? So why can't I exercise the fact that I want a holiday home in London and a work home in Cyprus? But there's another thing that comes into in the middle, and that's reality. Is it realistic to think that way? And that's where the journey begins. It almost begins, is it a journey about wanting to secure your finances, or should it be a journey of trying to find who Paul Lambis really is? Or is it a journey of your career? So those three you basically have three directions that you're going in, towards finances, towards career, and towards a home. And that could be a home within, or a home, as I said, in London or Cyprus.
You remind me of the old joke, that marriage is like a self-service cafe. You take what you want and then you see what your mate's got and you want a bit of that as well.
I think I'm going to use that, if you don't mind.
It's a very old one. I'm not very good at jokes personally, but I think it's very true, and it's not just about marriage, it is about all the things that you mentioned, isn't it? Yes. Are we ever satisfied? Are we all always on a journey, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's right, because the way I perceive humans, I see us as nomads. I think we can all relate to living in 2 or 3 different houses in our lives, relocating for various reasons. And with all this relocation and moving around, I think we're forgetting about where home really is. Is it where our belongings are, like you said, or our families? But for me, I think the most important part of the book is that, when the accident happened in 2008, which brought everything into perspective, and it said, okay, Paul, now where are you going from here? And obviously one of the challenges was, are you going to walk again? Even though everything looked bleak, I was determined to focus, to keep positive, and to change that. And obviously, when you've got the support of family, especially the family from my wife, Nikki, my son, Mario, my immediate family, my mom, my dad, and everybody around me, when you've got that support, it makes it easier. So ideally, yes, if you've got the family with you. But then again, there was the other aspect of, we're going to immigrate to Cyprus, the extended family will be there, and they will help us. But did they help us? Or how did they help us? Or was that an anticlimax?
And how difficult was it, as I said, with so many, if you like, repatriating Cypriots who have been born and brought up in other countries and who don't have the language very often, how difficult it is to readjust to a society that you're perhaps not particularly familiar with.
Correct. And it's like you said, when you go on holiday, you definitely see it in a different light. And that's what my wife always says to me. You're loving London, and I make sure that I go to London at least twice a year. But if it brings out the best in me, I know that it's not going to be theatres every day and restaurants every day, but the fact that you feel energised in a place.
It seems to me, Paul, that what you're missing is in a sense the metropolis, and I presume that South Africa had some of that buzz about it, and Cyprus, I suppose, even in Nicosia, lacks that a little bit because we're a little bit more laid back here in the Mediterranean, aren't we?
I think, Rosie, basically, having grown up in South Africa, in that buzz, that city life, and then, with crime knocking on your doorstep, and then having to immigrate and come to Cyprus, we appreciated that relaxed, that taking one step back, and basically peace of mind, if you'd like. And then once we had enough of that, we then looked, okay, we definitely need to...
You're hankering after the excitement again.
We need the excitement again, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to sort of empathise with all of this. Now, you're doing a launch and I think a book signing next Friday at the Columbia Beach Resort in Pisuri Bay.
Yes.
And that presumably, is that the beginning of a round of book signings before Christmas?
Yes, we're the books are available at the moment through various bookstores in Cyprus. But we basically, the book initially came out now, beginning of November, but we're doing the official launch next Friday at Columbia, at the resort, at about 7:30 in the evening. And that will kickstart, obviously, another book launch which will happen in December in Nicosia. And then towards the beginning or the end of January, we're going to be going to South Africa, and then Australia, United States, and London.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I think the first, definitely the first place on the cards would be South Africa. I haven't been to South Africa since I immigrated 10 years ago, so it would be a nice start to launch the book there and then move around the world with it.
Okay, but right here in Cyprus, we're first. Okay, so people can perhaps visit paul-lambis.com because I'm sure all the details are on there. We're short of time to talk about your other previous things because this is not your first writing thing, is it? You've also written other things, but we're getting very short of time because I've got a terribly busy programme tonight, unfortunately, Paul. We'll have to talk perhaps in the future about the Turkish princess and the short stories as well, and short articles that you write, I think, for Stilgizni magazine.
That's right, the Stilgizni, which is a Russian lifestyle magazine.
Okay, well, we'll do that another time, but in the meantime, Where is Home, being launched next Friday, and the very best of luck with it.
Rosie, thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation, and congratulations on an excellent show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That is Paul Lambis. Where is Home? A journey of hilarious contrasts, and I'm sure that you realise that from having listened to him. It is happening, as we just said, at the Columbia Beach Resort in Pisuri Bay, Pisuri, next Friday, 7 o'clock in the evening. And you can find more details on www.paul-lambis, that's LAMBIS.com.